Hey y'all, thought we'd pop in today to talk about what you actually need to get started with knitting. Because if you've ever wandered into a craft store thinking, I'm just here for some yarn, you've probably emerged 2 hours later wondering why there are 17 different kinds of needles, 47 weights of yarn, mysterious little gadgets that look like medieval torture devices, and enough color choices to make you question every decision you've ever made. Knitting has this reputation for being incredibly complicated. But honestly, it's one of those hobbies that people accidentally overcomplicate. Today we're going to cut through all of that and focus on what you genuinely need to begin knitting, so you can spend less time standing in the yarn aisle having an existential crisis, and more time actually making something. The very first thing you need is, surprisingly enough, yarn. I know, groundbreaking information here. But choosing yarn isn't as simple as grabbing the prettiest skein and sprinting toward the checkout before your budget notices what's happening. Beginners are usually happiest with acrylic yarn because it's affordable, easy to care for, and forgiving if you need to unravel your project 12 times. And don't worry, we've all done it. Wool is wonderful because it's warm and stretchy, while cotton is fantastic for dishcloths and lightweight summer projects. For your first attempt, though, a nice worsted weight acrylic yarn in a light, solid color is going to make your life dramatically easier. Dark yarn hides stitches like it's actively participating in witness protection, and heavily variegated yarn has a remarkable talent for disguising every mistake until someone points it out at Thanksgiving. Now let's talk about needles, because apparently humanity looked at 2 sticks and thought, you know what this needs? About 600 variations. You'll see bamboo needles, wooden needles, aluminum needles, steel needles, plastic needles, straight needles, circular needles, and double-pointed needles that somehow always look like you're attempting to knit with a handful of tiny little swords. For beginners, bamboo or wooden needles are fantastic because they have just enough grip to keep your stitches from launching themselves into orbit. Grab yourself a pair of US size 8 or 5mm needles if you're using worsted weight yarn, and you've got a setup that's friendly, forgiving, and far less likely to make you invent exciting new vocabulary during your very first project. One of the funniest things about starting any craft is discovering how many accessories exist. Walk into a knitting shop and you'll suddenly feel like you absolutely need a handcrafted walnut yarn bowl, a row counter that costs more than dinner, decorative stitch markers shaped like little llamas wearing little sweaters, and a project bag with 17 pockets. You do not. They're lovely. Someday you might own them. Someday you might own several. But today, you just need scissors, a tapestry needle for weaving in your ends, a measuring tape, and maybe a few stitch markers, depending on what you're making. That's about it. The rest can wait until you've successfully finished something without accidentally attaching your sleeve to the couch cushion. Once you've gathered your supplies, it's time for the magical secret behind knitting. Ready? There are really only 2 basic stitches you need to learn: the knit stitch and the purl stitch. That's it. Seriously. Entire sweaters, socks, blankets, hats, mittens, and all those gorgeous heirloom pieces people pass down through generations are built from different combinations of those 2 stitches. It's a little like realizing the alphabet has only 26 letters, yet somehow people keep writing 1,000-page fantasy novels. Once you understand the knit stitch and the purl stitch, you've unlocked the foundations for almost everything else. The fancy patterns aren't new magic. They're just those same stitches wearing different outfits. Of course, before you can knit your first stitch, you need to get the yarn onto your needle, which is called casting on. Think of it as laying the foundation before building a house. There are dozens of different casting on methods, and if you spend enough time online, you'll eventually discover knitters passionately debating which one is superior, with the intensity normally reserved for sports rivalries. For beginners, the long-tail cast-on is an excellent place to start because it's versatile, stretchy, and useful for countless projects. When you're finished knitting, you'll bind off to secure everything so your hard work doesn't unravel into what appears to be an unusually expensive pile of decorative spaghetti. Now comes the part I always recommend to beginners. Start ridiculously small. This is not the time to announce that your first knitting project will be an intricate lace wedding shawl featuring 374 charts and approximately 6 million stitches. That's a future you problem. Present you deserves a simple scarf or a basic dishcloth. Cast on about 30 stitches, maybe 20, knit every row, and keep going until it's the size you want. You'll practice holding the needles, maintaining tension, recognizing your stitches, and correcting all those little mistakes without also trying to figure out sleeves, collars, cables, and why your sweater suddenly appears to have developed an extra arm. Celebrate the little victories. Every finished dishcloth is proof that you're learning. Eventually, you'll want to follow patterns, and that's where many beginners suddenly feel like they've accidentally opened a textbook written in ancient code. You'll see things like K2, P2, YO, SSK, and other abbreviations that appear to have been invented by someone who was paid by the consonant. Fortunately, knitting patterns aren't nearly as scary as they look. They use shorthand because writing knit 2 stitches 500 times would make every pattern the size of an encyclopedia. Learn one abbreviation at a time. Keep a little cheat sheet nearby if you need it. Before long, you'll read those patterns the same way drivers read road signs. At first, everything feels really confusing, but eventually your brain just knows what to do. Let's also normalize making mistakes, because they're absolutely going to happen. You'll accidentally add stitches. You'll accidentally lose stitches. Your tension will be tighter than your shoulders after assembling flat pack furniture. You'll discover twisted stitches, drop stitches, mysterious holes that seem to appear through supernatural intervention, and moments where you'll stare at the knitting and wonder, how did I create this? I wasn't even trying. The good news is that every experienced knitter has done exactly the same thing. Some of them have unraveled entire sweaters because they discovered one mistake halfway through. Some of them being me. Knitting isn't about perfection. It's about learning to solve little puzzles one stitch at a time, while reminding yourself that yarn is remarkably forgiving. As you finish more projects, you'll naturally discover which tools are worth upgrading. Maybe you'll fall in love with circular needles because they're comfortable to use. Maybe you'll finally treat yourself to that gorgeous hand-dyed yarn you've been admiring from a respectful financial distance. Maybe you'll invest in interchangeable needle sets that somehow make you feel like you've officially joined the secret society of serious knitters. But none of those things are required to begin. The only truly essential ingredient is the willingness to practice. Every scarf teaches you something. Every dishcloth improves your consistency. Every project builds confidence. And before you know it, you'll look back at that first, slightly lopsided creation with enormous affection, because that's where your knitting journey truly began. Well, y'all, that's about it. I'd love to hear about your first knitting project, or if you're just getting started, tell me what you're hoping to make first down in those comments. Happy stitching!